That US President Joe Biden and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu do not see eye to eye is no secret. But today, President Biden has spelled out the problem with Netanyahu in no uncertain terms, by the way. In an interview to Time magazine, Biden said that there is every reason to believe that Netanyahu is dragging the war in Gaza for his own political survival. When questioned whether he believed Netanyahu sought to prolong the conflict for political purposes, Biden said, and I'm quoting here, "There is every reason for people to draw that conclusion." Biden, you see, has given voice to a widespread belief in Washington that the Israeli Prime Minister is using the war as a buffer against blowback. You see, Netanyahu's popularity has plummeted after the October 7 attack by Hamas. It exposed serious flaws in Israeli security. Months later, the Palestinian death toll in Gaza has shocked the world and raised serious questions about Israel's conduct. Two international courts, the ICJ and the ICC, have also put Israel on notice. And what's more, Netanyahu is facing growing pressure at home and internationally to accept the new ceasefire plan for Gaza, a move he is resisting over fears it will lead to the collapse of his government. According to political observers, Netanyahu would lose the elections if they were held now, would be forced into opposition and face court hearings on corruption charges. But elections cannot happen during war, or at least until major military operations are deemed to have been completed. And so, staying in office is Netanyahu's best chance of evading prosecution for corruption on charges that he denies. But how long can Netanyahu actually evade accountability? How long can Netanyahu sacrifice peace at the altar of power? On Friday, the Israeli Prime Minister was forced into a corner, that too by none other than Israel's staunch ally, US President Joe Biden. He unveiled a new truce and hostage release plan, which he said was an Israeli proposal.
And on the show today, we've got
so far, Netanyahu is yet to publicly endorse the plan.
Advisor of the United States
and this
America,
is despite the fact
on this broadcast.
that it was
Mr. Bolton,
supposedly
thank you very much
an
indeed
Israeli
for joining us here on WION.
But members of his far-right government have threatened to quit.
Now, there is
Should
going
the plan
to be
be
a
adopted?
Ukraine peace summit that will be held
in fact, today,
Switzerland
Israel
later
announced
this
a new
month.
military
But
campaign
what is
against
interesting
Hamas in
is that
central
Russia
Gaza.
is not going to be
Airstrikes
a part
killed
of it.
dozens
But the
of
United
people
States,
in the
of course,
Palestinian
would be.
Strip at a time
What
when talks between
sense does
US
it
and
make to
Qatari
take part
mediators
in a peace
were
summit
underway to
where
finalize
one
a
of the
truce
actors
deal?
in this war, the Russians,
The
who
armed
invaded
wings
into
of
Ukraine,
Hamas, as
are
well
not
as the
even
Islamic
taking
Jihad,
part.
say they were fighting gun battles
Well, it doesn't
with
make
Israeli
any
forces.
sense. And
Since Tuesday,
I don't
at least
expect any
44
real
Palestinians
movement. I don't
killed
expect
in
any new
Israeli
proposals. In
strikes.
fact, we saw
Which then
President
brings me back
Zelensky of
to the
Ukraine
American president's
this past
comment
weekend in
about
Singapore
Netanyahu.
claimed
Biden's
that
decision
China,
to spell
and
out
I think he's
in
probably
detail
right, but
Israel's
claimed
plan
that China
underscores his
is
growing
actively
impatience.
working
There's
to
been
make
a
sure that,
logjam
that no
in the talks to
progress
secure the
is
release
made
of
in
hostages.
Lausanne. It
Sure,
doesn't
Biden acknowledged the
surprise
pressures
me that
facing
China's doing
Netanyahu,
that.
but
I don't
relations
know why
between
they
the two
think it's
leaders
worth the
have
effort. It's pretty
become
clear that
increasingly
the
strained in the
differences
recent
that remain
months,
between
especially
Russia
as the
and
war
Ukraine
drags
are
on.
not going to be
The
bridged
Biden
in
administration
this
has
kind
grown
of peace
frustrated
conference.
at some of Israel's war tactics.
Now,
the
at
Biden
the start of
administration
this conflict,
admits
before this
that
conflict started, the
Israel's
Russians
war
and the Chinese,
conduct
of course,
does
assigned
not
a
include
no-limits
strict enough
agreement.
protection for
And
ordinary
ever since this war
Palestinians.
broke out, the United States has been trying to impose
But
sanctions
Biden said
on
in the Time magazine
Russia. It's been
interview
trying
that
to
it was
dissuade
not
China
clear
from
whether
helping
Israel's
Russia
actions
out.
constitute
But the Chinese
war
at least have said
crimes.
that they're not sending any weapons
that's
to
an allegation
the
made by the
Russian side.
International
But the
Criminal
fact is
Court
there are components that
when
seem
it
to be
issued arrest
manufactured
warrants
within
for the
China that
Israeli
have been
leader.
found
Still,
in
Biden
the Russian
did say
weapons.
that Israel
How
had
does the
engaged in
United States
activity that is
look at the role that
inappropriate.
China has played? Perhaps not an active
As
one,
per
but
reports, several US
backing the
officials
Chinese,
believe that Netanyahu's
letting the Chinese
unwillingness to
electronics
end
be
the
made
war
available to
shows
the
his
Russians. How
fragile
do the
political
Americans perceive
standing.
that?
Netanyahu is
Well,
in
I
a
think the
precarious
U.S.
situation,
government
to
is
say
not
the least.
concerned
And
enough
once
about what's
investigations
happening
into
because
security
China's
failures
support
of the
manifests
October
itself
7
in a lot of
attacks
different ways,
begin,
including
the Israeli Prime Minister's
using
position
China's
could be in
opaque
peril. After all, an end to
financial
the war in
system to
Gaza
help
could mean
launder
an
sanctioned
end
Russian
to
money
Netanyahu's
out into
political
international
career.
markets. substantially
Biden
increasing
declined
Chinese
to place the
purchases of
blame
Russian
on
oil and
Netanyahu
gas, and
directly
doing a
for
lot
any
of other
security
things to
failings, but he
facilitate
did
the
state
Russian
his
war effort. I
principal
think it's
disagreement
part
with the
of
Israeli
what has
leader.
emerged in the past
It
year
was
as a
Netanyahu's
new
refusal
axis
to begin
between
planning
Beijing
for
and
post-war
Moscow.
Gaza
Reminds us
and
of
his
the
rejection
Sino-Soviet
of an
alliance
eventual
during the Cold War,
Palestinian
except
state.
this time China is very much
He
the
said, and
dominant
I'm
partner,
quoting,
and Russia's
"My
clearly the
major
junior
disagreement
partner."
with
But I
Netanyahu
think
is
you
what
can see
happens
the
after.
assistance
What
North
happens
Korea has
after
provided.
Gaza is
Russia
over?
selling artillery and ammunition.
What does it go back to?
North Korea obviously being
He
one of
said,
the outriders
adding
of this
later,
new
I'm
axis,
quoting
along with
further,
Iran and Syria,
there needs to be
Belarus,
a
and
two-state
other countries.
solution,
So
a transition
it's a
to a
very
two-state
disturbing
solution,
prospect,
and that
and really,
is
in
my
many
biggest
respects, it's no
disagreement
longer
with
a
Bibi
European
Netanyahu,
war
quote
with
unquote.
Chinese involvement. It has
It's clear
global
as day that
implications.
Netanyahu has interest
But also
in
considering
the
that
war
Americans
continuing.
are
He
sending
knows that
weapons
Israel's
to the
staunch
Ukrainian
ally, the
$61
US,
billion
will
with
be
the budget that was
vulnerable
passed
to
about
political
a month
pressure
ago.
until the election process is
How
complete
successful
in
do you
November.
think this
He
American
knows
funding
no
for the
serious
Ukrainian
decision
war
is
effort has
possible
been
until a
in
new
the last
president is
6-8
sworn in
weeks,
by
ever since
January
that was
next
kicked in?
year. Does
Well,
Netanyahu
finally, it's
think
getting
he
to the
can wait
Ukrainians.
out
I think it's
Biden in
stopped the
Gaza?
Russian advances.
Does
I think
Netanyahu
over
think
what's
Biden is the
unfortunately
last
now
US
more than
president
2
who will
years, of
pressurize
course,
Israel to
since Russia's
accept the
unprovoked
two-state solution?
invasion of Ukraine,
To stay up
that
to
the
speed
US
with
and
the
NATO
latest
did not
news,
respond
download
as
the WION
effectively, as
app and
strategically as
subscribe
we
to
might
our
have in
YouTube
terms
channel.
of the provision